Very nice. Welcome everybody to the Center of Love. And why don't we just jump right into it with our opening song, because I feel like that's going to set the tone for the rest of our gathering. Friend of the center, Jason Mraz. He doesn't know he's a friend of the center, but we love him and love his music. And so we're going to start with Love is Still the Answer. Wow, what a great way to start. Off the heels of that song, I'd like to start with a prayer, if you will humor me. I know we're not really a regular church, but there's great power in prayer, and I just want to share this with you all because it doesn't matter who or what you worship, prayer is powerful. And so we approach you today, oh great teacher. You go by so many names: God, nature, universe. But what we call you doesn't actually matter all that much, because you are beyond all words, all names, and all symbols. You are the ultimate. You are the entirety, and we are one with you. And your messenger, Meister Eckhart, the great Christian mystic, once said, if your only prayer is thank you, that is enough. And so I will simply say thank you, oh great teacher. Thank you for this community. Thank you for the blessing of being. Thank you for all of the amazing blessings that are ever present in our lives. And thank you for giving us the clarity and the vision to see and appreciate those blessings. Amen. Hallelujah. Whatever you want to say. Thank you, thank you, thank you. We don't get hung up on words and names here, my friends. We look to the reality behind the words, okay? And when we get to the reality behind the words, we realize that all the words are pointing to the same dang thing. Hallelujah. So why are we here, my friends? What's the purpose of our great community? Well, do you remember that day in grade 2, or maybe it was in grade 3, when the teacher gathered the class together and said, okay, class, today we're going to learn about love, what it is, how it works, how to give it and receive it, and most importantly, how to love yourself. You all remember that day at school, right? No? Oh, good. Okay, so it's not just me. It's not just me. Good. Okay, so we have many functions as a community to support and inspire each other, to grow and evolve together, to learn and to teach together. But one of our core purposes is to explore the subtleties of love, because love, like many key aspects of the human experience, is a mystery. Like success, like happiness, like self. Love is something that motivates us, shapes our behavior in so many ways. Yet most of us never stop to consider what it is or how it works. We know how it feels to receive it. We know what it feels like to give it. But do we fully understand and appreciate love's true nature, the way love works? Do we fully grasp, for example, that love is not just a verb like I love you, but also a state of being? I am love. Not only a state of being, but I would say our essential state of being, the very core of our being. So if you're like me, and your teachers and parents and peers didn't ever teach you about the subtleties of love, then you, my friends, are in the right place. Here at the Center of Love, we're all teachers and students. We learn together from each other through the talks, through meditation, and of course, through deep, soul-connecting conversation. Now, you may be wondering, if I am love, Ollie, why don't I always feel like it? Why do I sometimes feel loveless or unlovable? Why do I sometimes have difficulty giving love, even to those I love most? If these are questions that circulate in your mind from time to time, you're in luck. Today's talk is about something that stands in the way of love. Now, as I see it, we learn quite early on in life to protect the heart, this endless reservoir of love. And what we do is we build fortresses to protect the heart. And in so doing, we shut the heart in, we seal it off, we block it up. We use many different types of materials to build these fortresses. And today, our speaker, Kressa, will be discussing one particularly durable and sturdy building block. Can you guess what it is? Here's a hint from our good friend, Jesus. In the 7th chapter of Matthew, he says, "For with the same judgment you pronounce, you will be judged. And with the measure you use, it will be measured against you." Why do you look at the speck in your brother's eye, but fail to notice the log sticking out of your own? How can you say to your sister, "Here, let me get that speck out of your eye," while there is still a log in your own eye? Oh my God, let me get that for you. Right? Wise words from our friend Jesus. And to speak on this very, very important and worthwhile subject, we have one of our founding members here today, Kressa Sisu. Kressa is a mother, a grandmother. She's been a social worker and a flight attendant. She's a teacher, a mentor, a friend, and so much more. And I am personally very blessed and grateful to have her as part of my family, and of course, as part of this great community. So without further ado, Kressa, I'm eager to hear what stands in the way of love.
All right.
Right.
So our topic is standing in the way of love. So who are we really? I believe we are a spirit, pure consciousness, part of all that is, having a physical experience, which is manifested as an ego personality. This is mainly created for us by others, by our culture, by society, by our ancestral energies, and by our trauma. This ego personality is the programming that's running your ship behind the scenes and can be at many times quite destructive until you start to understand it. So I'm going to share a story, and you need a little background first. So here's the background to the story that I'm going to share today. So I was a single mom at 21 with a 7-month-old and a 3-year-old, and the 3-year-old was a going concern. I was afraid for his safety every single day, and he made it because he's now 53. so something went right. On top of all that, I had to work full time to make ends meet. And in those days, there weren't things like shared parenting or, and even child support was kind of an iffy. This is in the 70s. So it was pretty challenging. And my biggest treat was on Friday night, I would have a beer and it cost 50 cents and I could only afford one. So as you can tell, life was challenging, to say the least, for me and for my children. So then things got a little bit easier. I met my partner, second partner, and he was a teacher and he had his own home. So life started to get easy and I was able to stay home with the 2 kids, and I took in children for extra support, for extra income and that kind of thing. But life was much easier then. But those 3 years that I was a single parent, I was in fight or flight every single second. Every second I was in fight or flight, and quite often up at night because somebody was sick. It was a very challenging 2 years, and it stayed in my psyche for a long time. And I think it was how I saw the world. It was how my lens through which I saw everything. So now we're going to fast forward 50 plus years. My youngest son divorced his partner of 18 years and meets a Brazilian beauty. He is in love. She is the polar opposite of his first wife, who I am still very close to. We have a really good relationship. I start to get to know her and I see that her and I are very different as well, my son's new partner. She comes from a very wealthy family with all the amenities of wealth. So nannies all the time and servants. Certainly very different from what my background was. So I take it all in and I try to be neutral. And then they have a beautiful little girl. And though his wife doesn't work, they have a full-time nanny. Okay, wow. So my programming is triggered and my ego is having a freaking field day. And what do you think I engage in? What is standing in the way of love? Judgment. Huge judgment. I perseverated about the situation and was overly judgmental of my daughter-in-law. How unfair, blah, blah, blah. I go down this rabbit hole for quite a while. It was keeping me up at night. A little voice says, she needs your support, not your scorn. But my programming is so strong, I don't listen. Then I did a psilocybin journey about 3 weeks after Jason's death, and in the midst of all this judgment. I do journeys usually during solstice, and some are very profound and life-changing, and others are more gentle and a reminder to stay in love. This one was profound, as Ollie and a few others here can attest to. I wrote 16 pages that time. And one of the things that came up the most was about judgment. Judgment, I was told, keeps the ego alive. Gives it fuel to exist. It's like an aphrodisiac for the ego. Love, on the other hand, fills the heart and the soul. So this journey stayed with me for a long time, and I knew I had to stop judging. My intention is to live with my heart and my I am presence and honor and love my ego, but minimize its control. My deep desire is for my ego to be my servant and not my master. So sequel to this story, I went for a visit to see my son and his family. Prior to this, my son and I had a very heartfelt conversation because he knew things were not great between myself and his partner. And he asked me, which to his credit said, Mom, how can we make your visits better? I said, please, could I just have the granddaughter by myself without the nanny? And they absolutely helped with that request. So they graciously complied. So one evening, I'm alone with my daughter-in-law. And we have a very heartfelt conversation. And I took 100% responsibility for my judgment of her. And I told her, I've been judging you. And we just had this heart connection that was very powerful. And we both hugged, we both cried. And it was so healing for both of us. And you know, since then, I feel totally different about her. I have no judgment whatsoever. And I actually feel a tremendous amount of love. She's my granddaughter's mom. And of course, I have to love her. But it was my own triggers that were stopping me from doing that. He even asked me to do some energy work on her. So I thought, wow, she's really accepting of our connection. So I felt like a huge weight had been lifted, and my intention is to be non-judgmental in all aspects of my life. It's a journey, and most of the time I catch myself and know that it's my heart I want to feel, and that's done through love. So let's talk about judgment a little more. Judgment comes in many forms. Judging others, as I have just shared, and one is judging ourselves and judging our external world, everything we judge. So I think understanding our judgments and what's behind them can help us get deeper into our own inner world. Asking questions. What is this judgment about? What is behind this judgment? So one experience that really proves this is my judgment and aversion to the color pink. Okay, you may think this is weird, but holy crow. So during my adult life, I disliked pink too intensely. I couldn't stand the color pink at all. I was going to wear pink today, but anyway, that didn't happen. So one Christmas when I was still married to my partner, he'd given me a gift, a beautiful painting. And in the painting was a little girl with a pink dress. And immediately I went into my yuck. And I thought, and I'd already started doing a fair amount of my healing by that time. And I thought, what's that all about? Then months later, I went to a course. I was taking training in energy psychology, and I was doing a workshop. And it was my turn to be on the table. We took turns kind of practicing on each other. And this particular modality uses acupressure points and muscle testing to determine what it is, what's deeper going on. And in our corrections, we quite often ask, what are some other parameters? Like, do you need some essence? Do you need some, lights on, whatever, or music? And in this particular one, what came up was I needed the color pink. So here I am lying down. She's holding acupressure points. I'm looking at the color pink, and I got it. I got what it was. When I was a child, and especially one incident, I had a fair amount of abuse. And all that abuse took place. Can you imagine what color the bedroom was? Pink bedroom, pink bedspread, pink everything, pink high chair. So at some level, in my psyche, pink and pain were connected together. And every time I saw color pink, I got uncomfortable. Now, once I figured that out, now I love pink. Wear it all the time. That is not an issue. So our judgments can be keys to our deeper inner world and help us to understand what our hidden driving forces and stored issues that no longer serve us are. It can be very profound. Let's talk about self-judgment. Judging the self is like feeding yourself poison. It's damaging to your well-being and can deplete your energy. I learned this lesson fairly early on in my journey, and I'm very grateful that I did, because my inner voice is fairly gentle. It can go there sometimes, but not that often. For me, it's more about the external judgments about the world, what's happening, blah, blah, blah. I can go to that place quite easily. But I'm learning to let that go. It's a lifetime journey to learn to accept it all without judgment and go with the flow. And what I am still growing into. And I feel that judgment, when we let go of it, we can be neutral and we can be more in the moment. We need to train the ego that it is not the master and the ruler, but the servant. Then we can hear our inner voice that will guide us to our highest good with a happy and contented heart. Our energies can go to how to love more. We are all connected and part of one big whole. When we judge ourselves, others, things, we are creating separateness from the whole. When we really start to understand our psyche, it's like unraveling a ball of yarn. It can create something beautiful. Judgment is fuel for the ego and the old programming, and love, my friends, is fuel for our heart. And which one would you like to feed? Thank you.
So, my friends, we are here to tip the scales and bring balance back to the world. Right now, as you can probably tell, the scales are tipping heavily on the side of fear, and by extension, division and isolation. That's just a judgment. I could be wrong. When I look at the world, that's what I see. That's my judgment of it. And maybe you folks agree. I don't know. But I think that we're all here because we sense that there is an abundance of fear out there. And how do we counter fear, division, and isolation? With love, by cultivating connections, and by integrating ourselves to become more whole individuals. Love is attraction, cooperation, collaboration for the greater good. And my friends, your presence here today demonstrates your commitment to the cause. So thank you for being here. As always, your presence is the greatest gift that you can give this community. Now, as always, there's another gift that you can give. We do have some expenses here, the chairs. We want to build a website.
Yes.
And of course, we have a Zoom account so that people from all over the world can join us and be a part of this community. Whether you live in Victoria, whether you live in Ontario, whether you live wherever, doesn't matter. We're all connected. And so that is it right there. We appreciate all of your gifts. whether they are material, energetic, intellectual, artistic, which, by the way, I have not had a chance yet to put the spotlight on another one of Linda's beautiful paintings, the Milky Way.
Beautiful. I love it.
See, that's what we do here, folks. We share beauty and goodness and community together.